Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Eurogamer Next-Gen News Cast. It is the 21st of January 2021, a new hope for us all. I'm joined by the OG Eurogamer Next-Gen News Cast for the first time in 2021. It does feel like a new beginning. We've got Eurogamer News Editor Tom Phillips. Say hello, Tom.
Hello there.
And Eurogamer reporter Emma Kent. Say hello, Emma.
Hello.
It's lovely to see you both again for our regular Next Gen news chat. And there's a decent amount to talk about this week and some new announcements, which I'm always excited about. But first, we do our traditional What Have You Been Playing catch up. Who am I going to start with? I'll start with you, Emma, because I got a feeling you've got something to talk about on this one.
Yeah.
What is that?
That is a chess piece. So like a lot of people, I watched Queen's Gambit over Christmas, and I'd never played chess before because I stupidly assumed it was like a very boring game, stuffy, boys play it, you know. Just like gender roles had kind of like locked me out of it when I was in school, and then I played it and I was like, actually, this is great. Why have I ignored it for all these years? And since then, I've become obsessed with it to the point where I'm like dreaming about chess. It's a bit worrying. It's kind of like Tetris effect, but chess.
Chess effect.
Yeah, exactly. No, like I had a dream where I was dreaming about the crown, and Queen Elizabeth and the crown could only move the same way as a queen on a chessboard, which was a little bit worrying.
No offense, Emma, but you need better dreams. So it's interesting because you actually wormed your obsession onto the site this week. You got a new fancy chessboard, which you tweeted about, from Soviet-era Russia, I think it was.
Yeah. So these pieces they were probably made in the 80s to kind of celebrate the 1980 Moscow Olympics. That's what I found online anyway, is the explanation, but they're just very nice pieces. And I got them from a lady in Poland. Managed to get it through the COVID quarantine.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a little weird, but you know, I love it. Twitch is having a bit of a chess is having a bit of a moment on Twitch, which you've reported on this week. I had no idea it was even a thing on Twitch until you mentioned it, actually.
Yeah, well, I think it started having a bit of a boom last summer because people were, like bored. Everyone's kind of stuck, not much to do, and all of the chess tournaments that would normally happen in the real world moved online, and there was more interest in chess streaming. So that kind of started there, and then with Queen's Gambit, it obviously has skyrocketed, and they broke a record for the most concurrents watching chess the other day. I think it was like 91,000.
Wow.
And that was just on the one stream because it was part of an event with lots of other streamers showing it. So I think they had about 160,000 people watching it, which is pretty good.
Yeah. So are you really good at chess then?
No.
I've been
learning for 2 weeks. No, I just play against computer at the moment just while I get better. But I nearly beat my dad the other day, so getting there.
Wow. You'll feel super guilty when you eventually beat him.
Oh, no, I won't.
No, you won't. No. You're like, eat it. Tom, have you been playing anything interesting this week?
As I talked about last week, I've been playing Spiritfarer, and I'm still playing that. It's actually a longer game than I expected. It's still a lot of fun. I've also got just a bit further in now, and kind of I'm at the point where I'm realizing the purpose of the game as I play, which is that not only are you meeting and befriending people as the Spiritfarer, you're also kind of acting as this this boat keeper that delivers them into the afterlife, and that also involves saying goodbye. So we've had a couple of sad moments.
You cried, didn't you? You definitely cried.
I did tear up. Yeah, I did. It's a very moving game at points, and it's great that it has so much balance to it. Like there's a lot of really fun character stuff, and then there's also, like, the description, as I said last week, is a cozy game about dying. And I posted about it on Twitter, and I got a lot of responses saying I cried at this game too. So it's been a while. I can't remember the last time I cried at a game, but
Mass Effect,
yeah,
probably,
it
don't
was
you?
maybe. I mean, that was a long time. I'm sure I have since, but yeah. And then completely different end of the spectrum is I've been trying to kill Predator in Fortnite and failing.
Okay. Yeah, because you wrote.
which
Yeah,
is
I saw this announcement. Predator is a boss, and if you kill him, you get his invisibility tech.
Yeah, you actually. I realized last night when someone else killed him, and I picked it up. It's actually his like severed limb, and it's still got like the cloaking thing on it.
So you're just carrying his arm around, like just gonna use it.
You strap it to your arm and then you use it for invis.
Oh my god,
it's a lot
that's
of fun.
dark. Even Arnie never did that.
Yeah. Well, breaking news. So literally minutes before we came to record, they just put out the teaser for the next crossover, which is going to be Terminator and Sarah Connor. So who knows?
There's such dad vibes to this. I'm sorry, but I've seen neither Terminator or Predator. I hate to say it.
I thought Fortnite was for teenagers. I didn't realize that they were going after dads who used to love and all the 80s action movies they love. Branching out.
I think they've got the kid audience sewn up already, but yeah, they're looking to attract those older people who like Predator movies like you.
Thanks, Tom. Well, I have to say, like, Fortnite has always looked like a weird, cartoony plus AK-47s game for kids. So having Predator is one of the goriest films of all time, right? What mainstream action movie films. There's a scene in Predator where a guy gets a hole blown through his chest, and you see it in all its glory. So the idea of having Predator in Fortnite was just, I was like, but it sounds like they're just sort of embracing it if they're letting you carry around his limb just so you can turn invisible. I know, and Terminator is very gory as well.
Fortnite will never have blood, but yeah.
Don't know how.
Yeah.
Well, so how does the boss fight go? Because if you haven't done it, I suggest it's hard to do solo, or is it something that everyone has to sort of work together to kill, or how does it actually work?
Yeah, it would be a lot easier. You can load up in squads and go in, but I was trying to do it last night solo. Basically, everybody right now is landing in this enclosed area of jungle where the Predator roams around, and it's just an astonishing sight to see the entire lobby of 100 people all descend on this tiny little patch, and it's and all hell breaks loose. And
are you more likely to get picked off by someone else before Predator gets you?
Well, this is it. Yeah, I got very, very close last night, and then I had another game where someone killed Predator, got the power up, and then I immediately killed them and took it off.
Classic worm tongue. Classic worm tongue strat. Don't do anything yourself if you can get someone else to do it for you. I respect that. God, so Terminator, what tech will he let you have? Exoskeleton or something?
Yeah. I don't know. And Sarah Connor as well, which is interesting.
Yeah. Okay, I've finished Cyberpunk, so I'm kind of done with Cyberpunk now, and I'm happy to leave it alone for a bit until things happen with it, whatever that may be. And I've just found myself slipping back into Call of Duty and getting so into it. It's such a weird thing at the moment because I'm literally playing 3 Call of Duties at the same time. I will have the menu for Call of Duty is 3 games. You got Black Ops, Warzone, and Modern Warfare in the menu of all of them, and you can switch between them very quickly. And I find myself having a couple of games of Black Ops called Cold War. I'll have a game of Warzone on the new Rebirth Island, which is all right actually. And then I'll play some Modern Warfare, and I'm just like, it's
you're getting like whiplash from it.
It's crazy because there are some big differences. So it's kind of going between all 3 on the same console very quickly. I've never been able to do that on any before with anything. It's kind of crazy. Good though, a lot of good fun. The grind is real. And when my kids get up very early, it's very, very difficult for me to cope with that. So let's talk about the news. I want to start with you, Tom, and yet another PlayStation 5 scalping story, because this problem hasn't gone away. It was a big deal last year when the consoles came out, and events this week have shown just how much of a shit show getting a PS5 is in this country. What exactly has happened this week that hit the headlines?
So a few retailers had more stock that came in. Sony's shipping more all the time, but it sells out pretty much as soon as it goes on sale. And there's still a real hunt when stuff appears on a particular website to be one of the lucky ones that gets in before it's all gone, and it's first come, first served. So it's the same issue that we had back in November when the console first went on sale, and there were groups that have been set up, not just to sort of give a friendly, oh, there's some over here, you know, if you want to get one quickly, head over. It's organized groups which use macro scripts and bots to quickly buy consoles, multiple consoles, try and circumvent the limits that retailers have, where you're only supposed to be able to order one at a time with a singular account to stop scalping from happening. And there were screenshots posted from people who had seemingly accumulated dozens and dozens of purchases, and then some, you know, like pretty infuriatingly, even as someone who wasn't one of the people who'd spent ages trying to get one for myself or for someone else, you know, parents trying to get them for their kids, it was very annoying to see people bragging about it, boasting that they'd bought 10, 12, they were going to make so much money now flipping them, selling them on eBay, or, you know, you can even just take them down to CX, which is still open, and almost double your money there. It's
I mean, this is something that's been going on for a while, but there was it was slightly unusual to see Game issue a statement on this, which you reported on this week, where they sort of downplayed some of the claims that have been made on social media. What did they say?
Yeah, that was interesting. I think there's definitely a greater awareness that this is a huge issue now. Lots of websites have reported on this, not just Eurogamer, but it was a big deal back in November. And it was pleasing to see games say, well, actually, what these people are showing you in their screenshots is they are pre-orders. And yes, credit cards have been, you know, they put a hold on your card. That's what people are seeing. But the purchases themselves don't get finalized until we do a subsequent check. And I've not seen subsequently how many of these purchases actually went through, how many Game managed to pick up. I think anyone with a relatively good sense of how the internet works could probably identify a few people from those brazenly boasting on Twitter of all the ones that they purchased. Or Game may have its own set of internal tools to highlight these purchases, which are made incredibly quickly. If you look at some of the like the purchase details that people were openly posting to boast on Twitter, you know, seconds apart. Clearly, that is not someone, a human, going through and doing that. And we've seen retailers have some success in this doing this kind of thing. The retailer cancelled about 1,000 orders back in December that it had identified were made by scalpers. So yeah, Game didn't really go into specifics, but then I expect they probably didn't want to, because the more information they give out about how they can combat this, the easier it is then for scalpers to try and get around it. And I think there's always going to be a kind of cat and mouse thing with this, where scalpers are going to try their hardest and retailers are always going to have to try and play catch up. But it was pleasing to see Game come out and say, we are aware of this. We're trying to do whatever we can. We know that this is an issue. Because it's still frustrating to see. And it's still frustrating to see these scalper groups exist to try and make money for themselves, which is another thing. Like they sell this information, access to this information about where consoles come on sale. This is a business for them. And it's certainly not a business that I think a lot of people seeing this story want to support.
I've seen a lot of discussion about some of the claims that some of the people who've been involved in doing this have made about why they're doing it. And again, these aren't sort of like unheard of claims in the sort of scalping business. But I thought it was interesting that some of the people on social media who sort of published these screenshots showing they've gotten loads of PlayStation 5s this week have said that they don't regret it, that they doing it because they've lost their jobs as part of the pandemic, and this is a way for them to make money. And if someone can afford to buy a PS5 for like double the price, then they're happy to take that money. Now, Emma, do you believe that kind of thing, or do they have a point?
Oh gosh, that's a tricky one. I guess I do have some sympathy if that they are being honest and they've lost their jobs and it's been a difficult year, but at the same time you are making quite a lot of other people really annoyed and miserable out of that. So I don't exactly approve, but maybe I can understand why people would do that if they're being honest about it.
I mean, are they being honest about it? I mean, I don't know if I believe that sort of thing, to be honest. I mean,
I think they're all pricks. And yes, you could do something to make money for yourself. I think you can also not be a prick about it, and you have to live in a world where you have to want to follow at least. Just don't be a prick.
Yeah, it's a pretty disgusting thing to do.
You could profiteer with loads of stuff during a pandemic with the excuse, I just want to make some money for myself, and I might spend this money on my family or whatever. And yeah, okay, but it's just no, I don't support it.
No, I think it's morally bankrupt. I'm not sure I believe the claims anyway, where people say, "Oh, I lost my job and I need the money," or whatever. Like, it just comes across as something people are saying to try and make people stop being upset at them for doing what they're doing. And if you boast about it on social media, then then you should expect these sorts of questions. It was interesting because I had a chat with a contact of mine at Game this week about this, to try and just find out what's going on behind the scenes. And they are cancelling thousands of orders. In fact, they had already done so before that group put that note out on social media. Game has got a lot of problems with its systems, its online systems, which are pretty archaic, and they're up against quite sophisticated, bot efforts. And it's not just Game that's having these sorts of problems. A lot of retailers are having these similar issues. So it seems like this is a thing that like online shops are really struggling with. And Game is cancelling orders where if someone buys more than one to be delivered to the same address, it gets cancelled, that sort of thing. But it is a big deal. It is a problem. It's not exclusive to Game. And I just hope that there is something that can be done. Whether there's anything that can be done, I don't know, but it would be good if there was some sort of effort. And I know MPs have been looking at this as well. I think the group of MPs, I think you reported them, didn't you, on the group of MPs in Scotland?
Yeah, they've managed to make enough noise to catch the attention of politicians who normally aren't all that interested in video games, I would say. So it kind of shows the kind of scale of the problem and how much people are talking about it. But it's very early days with that. I think they were basically saying that they wanted to talk about it in Parliament. I'm not sure if that progressed at all since that story was written. I'll have to check in. But it shows that they're looking at it and they want to talk about it, but no sign of legislation just yet.
Yeah, it just seems like every single time PS5s go on sale, something trends on social media about people who just stayed like up for hours or got up really early and got so far and then
Websites crashing.
websites crashing, they couldn't get one. You know, boasts from people who got loads of them. It's just the same every time, and it's just a real shit show. They can't make them fast enough, can they, Sony? Talking of Sony, another interesting story this week, kind of weird, is Sony pulled a load of release dates from one of its own trailers. It put out PS5 game release dates in a small print of a trailer published to coincide with CES 2021, the Consumer Electronics Show. They put this out to its YouTube channel, and we did report on it at the time. And the small print at the end of this trailer, which is quite a boring, sort of fluffy trailer for CES, had loads of information we didn't know about. It had some of the stuff we did know about, like it had Ratchet and Clank coming 2021, Horizon coming 2021, the release date for Eternal, which is in March, which we knew about, and then some stuff that we didn't know about. Pragmata, it said, was coming 2023. Pragmata is the Capcom game, I think it is.
Yep.
Solar Ash, June 2021. Kenna, March 2021. Stray, October 2021. Ghostwire Tokyo, which we'll talk about a bit more in a bit because it's a really weird situation with that one. October 2021, which we didn't know before. Little Devil Inside, July 2021. Project Athia, which we'd heard nothing about before this, really. January 2022. And Hitman 3, January 2021. That's obviously just come out. Brilliantly, there's a typo in this small print. They spelled January wrong, January. So people are like, oh, this is official Sony trailer they put out on their YouTube channel. Anyway, the news this week is they re-uploaded that trailer, changing the small print to strip away all of that stuff. All of the non-Sony games basically gone. So they stuck with Ratchet 2021, Horizon, Returnal. Everything else was gone, along with the typo. Now, my question is, what do we think? Do we think that these release windows were accurate and they weren't supposed to be? They were put up there in error. Or was it? Are we not to believe these release windows now? What do we think has actually got on here, Tom? Do you think we should believe what we saw before that has now been pulled?
I think we should believe what we saw as much as we can believe any release date in 2021. And here's what I think happened. You don't put out public release dates with like January 2022. It's a pretty specific window that in 12 months time the game is going to come out. 12 months before a game comes out in 2021, which I think is going to be an extremely disruptive year for video game launches, because as soon as you put out something that specific, that 30-day window, you're then and people will report on it, as we did, as everyone else did. You're holding the developer, which isn't even your own company in many of these examples, to a launch that they hadn't previously announced themselves. So it was very strange to see that happen. I think it probably was a mistake that these things were put out there, whether the person making the trailer assumed that this was public information or not. It seems pretty much amateur hour.
Yeah, well, January typo.
Pulled and re-uploaded.
Got to proof that bit, I think.
Yeah, suggests it wasn't even proofed.
It holds these people to this release date. You don't need to do this. Also, when you are ready to announce a release date, say you are confident it's going to come out in 12 months. You, as a developer, you don't want your release date, which is going to be like a guaranteed PR hit for your game, to be in the small print of some weird CES trailer that like people notice after the fact actually has new information in it. You want to release like an actual trailer and release details.
An opportunity for fanfare and bringing attention to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
real rubbish
really
way to announce a release date. But my question is, do we think that at the time that this trailer was put out, these are the actual intended release windows? So it's not just we don't think Sony just made them up. we think that this is actually, what they have been
It's
indicating to
probably
them.
some kind of like internal schedule that they've got as kind of target windows that snuck out. So I think at some point it must have been what was intended, but I imagine it's going to change a lot, as Tom said, due to delays this year.
Right.
There's no way that all of those release dates will be accurate in like 2 years' time when we look back at them. They just won't, because release dates change all of the time. And, here's a little newscast scoop. Like, we reported about a week ago on a bunch of retailer leaked release dates for the Mass Effect trilogy coming out in March. It's not coming out in March anymore. And that's just something that happened in the past week. Like, things are going to shift and move all the time over this year. And like, especially when you're talking about 2022 dates, 2023, like, a lot of people, if you have a game coming out in 2023, you don't even say it's coming out in 2023, because to me and to other people, 2023 is Futureland, and like, I would rather not know that it's still 2 years.
You mean post-apocalypse?
Like, well, probably yes. But what we were talking about last week with the Bethesda game announcements for Indiana Jones and Star Wars, those games are 2023 games at the earliest. They don't have 2023 on them. It's just all about like, get excited for this amazing game. It's a long way off, guys. Let's be honest here. But get excited. Don't put 2023 on the end, because people are then just gonna be like, why are you telling me now? But like, they do tell you now to get you excited, without then being like, oh, but this is going to be a 2-year long lead up. Microsoft hasn't done this for any of its own games that are clearly like ages and ages away, like the new Fable. So yeah, amateur.
So what we're saying here is Sony pissed off a whole bunch of people. They had a moan, and then Sony pulled it, hoping the internet would forget, but it's not gonna. So.
Well, this isn't even the first time this has happened with the Sony trailer, because if you remember, the Demon's Souls remake trailer, I think, said that it was going to go to PC, and then they had to re-upload that and remove that and be like, oh.
You're right. Yeah, I remember. Oh my God. Sony's having some trouble with its trailers. I forgot about that. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Well, the new trailer has 3 Sony games, so I assume that is still valid. So Horizon at some point this year, Returnal, which has a release date, and Ratchet at some point this year. Moving on to Microsoft, we got a really interesting trailer, more of a sort of like development diary video this week for Project Mara. Project Mara is an upcoming game from Ninja Theory, the developer of Hellblade, and prior to that, some quality games, DMC Devil May Cry, Heavenly Sword, Enslaved, and they are now owned by Microsoft, working on Microsoft exclusives, and Project Mara is one of them. What I thought was interesting about this game, which we don't really know anything about, is they're trying to recreate a real life apartment in the game, photorealistically recreate this apartment to the point where it's so detailed, so accurate, that it's almost indistinguishable from real life. And the game is set in this apartment. There's not really anything more to say about the game at this point, other than it's a mental terror experience, as they describe it. And I don't know if you guys have seen this video, but it's pretty incredible. Like, I've never seen anything so realistic looking. It'd be interesting to see if this game is coming out on Xbox One, because like, I just cannot see it at all. But there's a sort of like indication of the kind of visuals that we're going to get, in a couple of years from the next gen consoles. Man, it looks like nothing else I've seen, and really exciting. And we are literally in month 2 of next gen. Like, it just feels so long, doesn't it? Or it feels so long ago. Like, it feels like they've been out for ages. It's only been 2 months.
Yeah, so much has happened in that time. Honestly, the sound of a very photorealistic small room in which you live your life as a mental terror thing is basically what I've just been experiencing for the last year. So I can't say it really appeals to me.
Oh my God. Maybe by the time it comes out, it'll be like a throwback to remember that year when we were all stuck in. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Holy crap. I mean, bad timing. This is what they've previously said about Project Mara. They've said it's an experimental title that explores new ways of storytelling, built around a real-world and grounded representation of mental terror. Using real lived experience accounts and in-depth research, its aim is to recreate the horrors of the mind as accurately and realistically as possible. And they're going in the video. Ninja Theory's creative director Tamim Antoniadis, he says they're aiming to deliver an experience that doesn't feel like a game and doesn't feel like a movie, but is something altogether different. And part of that is to capture reality obsessively. So everything, they're scanning everything as perfectly as possible, materials, geometry, to try and make this the most realistic game setting that they've ever made. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't really know what to expect from that. Sounds kind of really fascinating, but also really kind of harrowing.
It sounds interesting, and I'll be interested to look at it for a bit. But to be honest, I don't think like ultra realism is something that really appeals to me in gaming so much anyway. I prefer seeing like unusual art styles, even if it looks like potato-y or like an indie game or something like that. That is more interesting to me. But I think it will be fascinating to see just how far they can push it from like a technology perspective.
Yeah, I mean that's what this is at the moment. All we're seeing is really sort of like some of the tech underpinning the work that they're doing. But it is like, even like kitchen sink, like if you see what the kitchen sink looks like in this video, you're like, that's the best looking kitchen sink I've ever seen in a video game.
It reminds me of PT a bit, like a horror experience in quite a small environment, and I'm really intrigued to see what is going to happen in that environment. You don't need like lavish sets. You could do like a horror movie in a very small space if you have interesting things happen. Like maybe you turn the taps on in that very realistic sink and blood starts coming out at one point. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's a really cool project, and probably something that they couldn't really work on unless they were owned by Microsoft. And it's just like it's clearly like a thing that they want to do, and Microsoft has a space for on Game Pass. And I expect it won't be a very long game probably, but like if it's a really unique, short 2-3 hour horror experience that you play through and just kind of marvel at and get freaked out by, then yeah, I'm pumped.
I hadn't thought of it that way. Microsoft's answer to PT. I like it. This will actually be something people can play. Ninja Theory is also working on a couple of other things, something called the Insight Project, which is something to do with neuroscience. And I guess what would be considered the big one they're working on, which is Hellblade 2. And Hellblade was, critically acclaimed, did really well for the studio. I guess that game's success and the kind of game it was one of the reasons Microsoft was interested in buying the studio. So, but it was something that you could imagine would be benefit in terms of a sequel from the resources that Microsoft would afford them. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. Really interested to see all the stuff that they've got going on. Talking about what developers are going on, I guess the big news this week has to do with Capcom and Resident Evil. We've just had a Resident Evil showcase event where Capcom showed off gameplay for Resident Evil Village. I still struggle with that name. I'm sorry, Resident Evil Village. It just sounds so silly to me.
Oh, it sounds lovely. Nice little village. What could go wrong? It
sounds like Stardew Valley with a Resident Evil skin. It does not sound like the kind of game that we saw being played. Resident Evil 8. It's Resident Evil 8. Anyway, so we saw gameplay of this game. and we saw a weird sort of multiplayer experience that Capcom has announced as well. And there was some talk about the Netflix show, the Resident Evil Netflix show as well. So all this sort of Resident Evil stuff that's going on. Tom, you've covered this for us. What's your first impression of Resident Evil Village?
Wow, that game looks just stunning. The engine that they have and the ability that they clearly have on display to create just astonishingly intricate designs, interiors. It's the atmosphere to it, the environmental detail is incredible. Like the velvet on the chairs in the castle, the like the alabaster and marble staircases. I am so annoyed that I don't have a PlayStation 5 and I can't play the demo that they released last night. Right now, that's a real pain for me.
Yeah,
so
I've got a PS5, Tom. Just so you know. Just want to let you know that I have a PS5.
I know you do. Yeah, I'd like, wow, but we can talk about that later. I think just Village as a whole looks like visually an astonishing new chapter in the series. It's very interesting to me as a Resident Evil 4 fan in particular. I love Resi, but Resi 4 was by far my favorite, has always been. It's Resi 4 again, right? You start off in a village and then you move to a castle. And it's set in Europe, and it's a much more rural. I mean, 7 was rural as well. I guess it was in the swamps in the US, but this is rural Europe. Even the characters that you meet in the castle. So you've got creepy tall vampire lady, who don't say that like that. Who, by the way, is not a vampire because vampires don't exist in Resident Evil. Thank you very much.
Why?
They just vampires aren't no.
What do you mean?
What do you just know?
What do you mean? Vampires don't exist. So if I spoke to Leon Kennedy and said the word vampire, I'd be like, I've never heard that word before. What does that mean?
He would say, oh, you mean like the popular fantasy undead rather than the real undead created with lab viruses that I have to fight in my day job while wearing attractive jackets and nice floppy hair. Leon Kennedy is a very attractive man. She's very pale skin, but then I think like I was talking about this with you, Emma, earlier in the week, and you were like, well, she's just not gone outside very much, which we can all relate to.
She lives in a castle. Why would you want to go outside?
Exactly. Well, anyway, it looks great. Like the gameplay is a real mix, interestingly, of 7. Obviously, it's first person, and 4 from the guns on offer, even down to the fact that inventory Tetris is back. I am so excited. This should be its own game. Man, that was and the merchant as well. Although he looks a bit different now.
Oh yeah, he looks really different.
A different merchant, I think.
Yeah, he didn't say, what are you buying? Or anything like that.
No. Missed opportunity. The first time I saw a trailer for Resi Village, I thought it was a remake of Resi 4 because the village looks the same. And now we're seeing a castle, which is just a very, very similar environment. A lot more detail now because it's next gen.
But they are making a remake of Resident Evil 4.
Well, allegedly they are, yes. I wonder if they'll reuse some of the same assets.
Yeah, I mean, Resident Evil 4 in the Resident Evil engine. Oh God, I can't even. It's such an exciting prospect. So you got Resident Evil 4 vibes from the game. I thought it looked fantastic as well. But I want to talk a bit more about the current internet infatuation with tall vampire lady. Now I know you've got this vampire isn't the law thing, but the internet has decided that she is tall vampire lady. And
it's like the whole Baby Yoda thing, and Disney's getting really upset and they're like, it's the child, and everyone's like, no, Baby Yoda.
Exactly. Yeah. Tom, I can see you saying exactly that. Actually, it's in the credits. It's referred to as the child. I can just. So this is a tall vampire.
He is.
Oh, jeez.
This is a complete tangent, but when
Really?
Baby Yoda came to, I know I never do this, but when Baby Yoda came to Fortnite at the beginning of the season, they had to really carefully word the fact that Baby Yoda was coming to Fortnite, which is what everybody saw when they looked at the trailer and saw Baby Yoda. But they had to say, also, as well as the Mandalorian, the child, known by some fans as Baby Yoda, is coming to Fortnite. They couldn't call him Baby Yoda
By
officially
some fans,
themselves.
not everyone.
Not you, Tom.
It's dumb. But like, okay, so going back to the trailer and what we saw,
Vampire lady.
Vampire lady,
Tall vampire lady.
and her 3 daughters, I think we saw, they didn't display any vampire-esque abilities.
Bats,
but
mate. One of them turns into bats.
No, they're wasps. Surely.
They're wasps?
They're wasps.
No, they're not. They're bats.
They sting Leon. He gets a sting in the hand.
I thought it was like just like really hungry bats, just like.
Hello. I was talking about this with Aoife, and because I thought at first they were moths, and then she said, no, they definitely sting. And I was like, that's true. Moths don't sting. But I thought they were moths because, they've just been living in this castle for years and years, and now like moths live inside them, like old clothes. Who knows? Maybe they are. Who knows? Bats.
It's not the daughters that I'm interested in anyway. It's I wrote a story about this on Saturday because I could not believe some of the shit I was seeing about tall vampire lady from Resident Evil, and this was just based off a real short teaser for the showcase, which had like 3 super brief clips of the tall lady, and that was enough to send the internet on a thirsty meltdown, and it was pretty exciting to see. And the clips were really funny because one of them, it's like she's taking a selfie with her kids, and she's doing this really like nice smile. What a lovely tall vampire lady. The other one is she's sort of bending over to walk through a door. Because people are like, oh, she's not tall, that's just the way the camera was angled. And you're like, she's really, really fucking tall. She like has to bend over to get through a castle door. And then the other one is she's just standing next to her kids, and she's noticeably taller. So what my question is, is she like a boss? Do we think she's a kind of like Mr. X-y kind of character that sort of stalks you through the castle? Is it or like a nemesis kind of situation where you're never really sure where she turns up? We're expecting that sort of thing that we saw in the remakes of 2 and 3, or is this a more scripted, story-based character? Because there is a cutscene that we see in the showcase where she's on the phone to Mother Miranda, who I don't know who that is.
Those dialogues, or like the relationship that all of those characters have with each other. And she mentions that you basically defeated her brother in the village. They remind me of the relationships that the enemies in Resident Evil 4 had with each other, where they all knew each other. It was quite cohesive. Like there was a boss of the village, and he was sort of like, he wasn't related by blood, but like he was known to the people in the castle. Like there was that weird little boy, Salazar. I can't remember their names now. I think it was Salazar. And then there was like the old creepy dude who was a bit like Emperor Palpatine. And it felt like they were sort of setting up a similar relationship between those characters. There were definitely echoes of Resi 4 all the way through this. But then there was gameplay which showed the sisters chasing you down a corridor. And that to me looks very much like Mr. X and the stuff that we've seen more recently in 2 and 3. And I think that it looks like, for all that we can see so far, that Village is going to be kind of a blend. It's going to be a bit of Resi 4 with a bit of the more recent Resi games that, if you've played the remake of 2, the remake of 3, and like those, that there's going to be something similar for you in Resi Village. along the same lines, where I think like you could see the castle being a location where those sisters are always chasing you around.
Emma, as our resident young person,
Wow.
what did you think of the internet's reaction to Tall Vampire Lady? Was it is it just like, boring lockdown? Everyone's bored.
Everyone just thirsty in lockdown.
Yeah.
Or
Is
anyone.
there something special about her that you're seeing?
I don't know. I saw quite a few comparisons to that meme when it's a very tall lady holding up her girlfriend, and basically it was like the same energy as that. And I was like, okay, I can see why people are actually enjoying this quite a lot now. The whole kind of like Dom vibe to it. Yeah.
That's terrible. That's a terrible joke.
Yeah, to be honest, I normally stay clear of like Resident Evil stuff because I cannot cope with horror games. Horror films fine. As soon as it's game, I'm terrified. But even I was just like, what is going on? Because my entire timeline is just filled with people being thirsty over this lady.
Is it enough to convince you to give the game a shot? Or are you happy to watch from a distance?
Yeah, maybe I'll watch a stream, watch someone else deal with the scary tall lady.
Yeah, I think one of the first things I'm going to do when I start the game is allow myself to be killed by her. I can imagine the death cutscene for that will be quite fun. I left a lot of shit out of that story. I did, not gonna lie, which was entirely not appropriate for a family-friendly website. And I thought one of the comments was quite funny, which was, "Oh, please link to it, just so we know not what to click, what not to click on." I was like, yeah. Anyway, moving on from Resident Evil Village, Capcom, which I think people are going to love. Capcom also announced a weird looking multiplayer-y thing, which I'm not sure the internet is going to be as keen on. Tom, what is this thing that they're doing?
I don't want to be mean, Wesley. I don't want to be mean, but yeah, Capcom, I think it's safe to say, doesn't have a stellar track record when it comes to multiplayer Resident Evil spin-offs. No. And this looks to be like another Resident Evil multiplayer spin-off in the same vibe. It's clearly early and they're doing beta tests. They didn't even mention when it was going to be out, and it's a freebie. You get it if you own Resident Evil Village, which is just as well because no one in their right mind will want to pay for this. I said I wasn't going to be mean. Like, it's just a weird, janky looking shooter right now. It could change and be better. Who knows? I don't like its visual, weird look to it. It's got a kind of comic book effect. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
I thought it was cel shaded at first when I saw it. It's called Reverse. Reverse. Which is it like supposed to be like universe, the Resident Evil universe, because they're throwing all the iconic characters from Resident Evil into it, right? In a kind of weird multiplayer, third-person mashup, competitive multiplayer experience. Like Jill's in there,
Punk's in there,
Nemesis in there, like they're all in there, and they're just like shooting each other from third person, and there's this weird visual, like black outline, cartoony.
Yeah, it's not for me. It's not on. It doesn't look like what I want from a Resident Evil game. And I think that Resi has there is a real opportunity there to do different things with Resi. Not only in the main series of games, which have varied a lot over the years, and some are better than others. But I would just point to the Mercenaries mode of Resi 4, which lets you play as a whole load of people from throughout the series. On like wave-based gunplay, and that seems a lot more fun than just turning it into a competitive shooter again, which they've tried before.
Yeah, the Resident Evil 3 remake came with an asynchronous. It was like multiplayer thing where one person was like the boss looking down at the play space, and then the other character players were co-op trying to survive. I guess a bit like Evolve, if you remember that game, and what Fable Legends might have been if it had come out. And that just died a death, didn't it? It was just no one. I don't know if anyone's playing that now. No one seems to care, and I just can't see this one getting much traction. I mean, it's free, so it's hard to complain too much, but I just don't see anyone bothering too much with it.
I don't understand why this. I don't think it takes anything away from Village. I think it's an entirely separate project, and yeah, it's a very different thing. But I just don't understand the thinking behind putting this out. Like, is there a feeling that single player games have a limited amount of life, and if you throw this in, then you're encouraging people to back to it rather than? I just don't know. I don't really understand why it exists.
No,
the Village looks great.
Talking of single player experiences, Skyrim, the game that just won't go away, I think will be here long after we're gone. People are still playing Skyrim, still loving it. And I saw an interesting story this week about Skyrim. You can now play Skyrim on PS5 at 60 FPS thanks to a new mod. Skyrim on console has mods, and so it's not like it's not like you need hacking anything or whatever to get this to work. And someone has created one which allows you to run the game on PS5 at 60 frames per second, and crucially, it lets you get trophies as well. Because normally, when you have mods, when you enable mods for Skyrim, it disables trophies or achievements. And this is fantastic. And I find myself, I don't know if any of you guys have played Skyrim at all, but I played it a lot back in the day, over the years, every now and again, hundreds and hundreds of hours in. I don't know if there's anything left for me to see in that game. I saw this news and I was like, now I want to play Skyrim again.
It's got a way of pulling you back in. There's always another side quest to do. I don't know.
Have you played it, Emma?
Yeah, I've played it quite a lot, and of course, like there's a big modding scene for Skyrim on PC. So I've been kind of messing around with that for a while.
Yeah. I just find it's such a weird thing because I know what happens at almost every stage of that game. It's not like I get a fundamentally different experience if I play it. And I can already play it at 60 frames per second on PC, which I have right here in front of me. I don't know why, but it's just calling to me on PS5 to do this. I don't understand it.
I've never actually finished the main story in Skyrim because I spent the whole time doing side quests.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I mean,
I kind of know how it ends because I think I watched a stream or like a YouTube playthrough before I had like a PC that could actually run it well. This is ages ago.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
would actually say that's all right because the main story sort of loses steam towards the end anyway. The iconic moments are all well before the end. But yeah, you should totally finish Skyrim.
That's my project at the moment.
Yeah, you should totally finish Skyrim, and it runs on anything, literally. I think Bethesda's actually released it on everything. How old is Skyrim? Skyrim came
2011?
out November 2011. Oh,
yeah.
Jesus Christ. So this year it turns 10 years old. Wowzers. And I want to play it again. What will happen is I'll start it. I'll spend an hour on character customization. Start the beginning, get through that, like you arrive in the cart bit and the whole dragon attack, and then I'll be like, I can't play this anymore.
What sort of characters do you normally go with in Skyrim? What's your build?
My OG Skyrim build was a Nord sword and shield female character who, in my mind, was like, I guess the sort of Brienne archetype from Game of Thrones, and I just had so much fun knocking lumps out of people with the shield. I bet I wasn't even that fussed about the sword because I didn't think the sort of melee combat is
Smashing
great in it.
people.
Just twatting people off cliffs and ledges and bridges. Brilliant. And when you eventually get the shouts, they just run up to people and going, fuck off, and then firing away. Wicked game. See, now I have to play it again.
Oh, my build was always quite sneaky, so I had like quite high illusion. So I'd go and hide on like a cliff edge, and I would just use I think it was quite like called Light Fury or something, and it would just make people fight each other from a distance. So I would like clear out the whole camp, and there'd be one person left. I'd go use Calm on them, and then I'd just slice their neck so they couldn't get me. And that was how I'd get rid of them all.
Jesus, that is a terrifying way to play that game. Gosh, so I'm just like brute force, bludgeon everyone with my shield, like blunt attack. Whereas you're just like, just no one sees you coming. Interesting, different approaches. God, I was thinking about Skyrim even before this announcement in the context of Cyberpunk. Everything that's come out about Cyberpunk and the way the launch has gone with all the bugs. And a lot of people comparing the launch of Cyberpunk to the launch of Skyrim, especially on console. Skyrim on console when it came out was bad, like, really bad. It never got pulled off the PlayStation Store, but on PS3 it was really like had a lot of trouble, many bugs. Some of them iconic video game bugs for the ages, with dragons that would fly around backwards in circles. One of my favorite bugs of all time, early days Skyrim bug, was if an NPC had a bucket on their head, they couldn't see you, so you could nick all their shit.
Oh yeah, no, I think that still works, doesn't it?
I think they fixed it so that.
Oh, okay.
I remember them talking years later about that bug. Going when they saw that, they were like, "Shit, yeah, we should probably."
I think I heard that the you can get launched into the air by giants. I think I heard that was not intentional, but they kept it in anyway.
Really? Oh yeah.
I need to check that, but
that
I'm glad they kept it. It's
that
amazing. When that happens the first time, you're just like, what?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and you're not sure if it's meant to happen because it's a giant. You're like, they could probably do that to me.
Yeah.
Oh man, Skyrim. I cannot imagine a game that is gonna have as much hype as Elder Scrolls 6. Talking about next gen games, just to wrap up.
I think wisely they haven't shown or talked about it, so they can't disappoint people if they remove features.
Yeah,
we'll just get it how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, right, we're launching it this Christmas, and it's like the summer or something. Because then you just like the Cyberpunk model has just completely failed for them. If you accept that it's reasonable that features get cut in the process of development, then CD Projekt almost laid them all out, like 2 years in advance, and then half of it doesn't make it into the game. And look what
Bethesda's doing with Starfield. Like, how much do we know about Starfield?
Nothing really.
Nothing.
But then we're not expecting these games anytime soon anyway, are we? So it's probably
definitely not Elder Scrolls.
No,
that's another reason that they have not shown anything, because it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, they just got a picture that Double Tap
analysed.
Yeah, Chris Tapsell, who works for Eurogamer, I loved his article. I don't know if you read it, on like taking this tease that Bethesda put out on social media and really going, the way Tom gets when you talk to him about Resident Evil and
vampires and stuff.
Yeah, he just did that with this teaser. It's just so much fun to watch. Anyway, mug check. Tom, what have you got this week?
It's the plane from Lost.
Oh,
the TV show.
Wow. Oh God, talk about lore. You are Lost lore master, aren't you?
One of my favorite TV shows.
Emma, what you got?
Oh, I've got a Moomin mug.
Moomin.
It's like a little house that are all coming out.
Oh, wow.
It's the Moomin house.
Oh yeah,
Amazing.
lovely.
Yeah.
What about you, Wes?
Do you know what that is? Can anyone recognise that?
It's someone's leg. Oh, it's the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
It's like guess the mug mini game for everyone.
Lost Moomins, Wizard of Oz. Brilliant.
Weird.
Okay, so I'm sure everyone watching this knows by now, but if people want to follow you on Twitter for more lore dumps, Tom, where should they go?
It's Tom Phillips EG, and I just remembered someone told me that I got the name of the grass wrong that grows on sand last week. It's actually marram grass, not pampas grass. So apologies for that. As good as grass lore.
Jesus. Well, Emma, for more pictures of fancy chess sets that you only buy because you know that you might write about them for Eurogamer at some point, where should they go?
It's at GoneEFK.
And I'm at WYP100. Thanks so much, guys. See ya.
Bye.